in the chat room. So anyway, so if you're watching this video, okay, this because I referred you to this video through an email you sent me at Home Recording Made Easy because you're having some issues with your audio interface and specifically Windows PC. And everyone's computer system is a little different. And although we can't answer every single question without sitting in front of your computer, I brought my good friend Johnny Lipsham here from Johnny Lipsham Studios.com.uk. Link will be in the description box below, but Johnny, you can correct me on the website.
Yeah, it's .co.uk.
.co.uk. Link will be in the description box below. Johnny is a colleague and a friend of mine. He's very familiar with PreSonus hardware in Studio One, and he's a PC user. So he's going to try to help us with some of these more common questions. So after you watch this video, if you still are having trouble getting your interface and your equipment hooked up with Studio One and you're a PC user, there's going to be 2 links in the description box below. Link number 1 is going to send you out to the PreSonus user community forum, where there's a ton of great people there, a lot of people there that use PC as well as Mac if you're having troubles with your Mac as well. You can go out there, register for free, and you can post your problem in the user community, and someone will absolutely get back to you and try to help you, because you're probably not the only one with this problem that you have. People have experienced it before. I can guarantee you that. Second link below that will be the link to put in a support ticket with PreSonus themselves. Yep. If you tried everything and you've gone to the forum and nothing seems to be working and you think that maybe you have a defective unit or something, who knows, you can always send in a support ticket to the PreSonus tech support and someone will get back to you and try to help you through your issue as well. And between this video, the user community, and the PreSonus support staff at PreSonus.com, someone will be able to get you up and running. So that's why, if none of those things work, you can email me back, but I would hesitate to ask you to do that, because once you've watched this video, I'm out of ideas and I really can't help. So I'm gonna gently guide you to the user forum and to the PreSonus support people. Okay. So the very first question, Johnny, that I get all the time, whether it's Windows 7, Windows 10, doesn't really matter, it could be either or, is they have their new interface. Typically it's an audio box USB, but not always. It could be an i2, it could be one of the more affordable PreSonus interfaces. They have Studio One Artist, they install Studio One, they take the USB cable, they plug it into their PC, and when they go to configure it, Studio One doesn't recognize it. In the preferences window, when you do the drop-down box to see your interface, it doesn't see it. What are some of the common things that they might be able to try to do that? What would cause that? What have you found in your experience?
First thing you need to do, if you have a PreSonus device of any kind, of any interface, first thing you need to do is you need to download and install Universal Control. Universal Control is the device driver for pretty much every PreSonus device.
And where is Universal Control located? Where can they get that download?
When you register your PreSonus product, you go to your my.presonus.com account. And in your account there, when you click on your Studio One product, or in fact, when you click on your hardware product, so if it's the AudioBox 96 USB or the i2 or one of the studio interfaces, whichever one it is, when you click on that product, the next screen that comes up will be that product and then any associated downloads with it. So if you qualify for the Studio Magic bundle, all of that will be there and you can go download those. But also the most important thing is Universal Control. The downloader for that will be there as well. There are 2 boxes. One is for PC and the other one is for Mac. Right. If you're a PC guy, hit the Mac. Don't hit the Mac one.
Right.
Because you'll get a driver that doesn't work. You want to make sure that you hit the PC one. And then you download and you install that. You restart your computer and Universal Control will be there. And that is the device driver for your PreSonus audio interface, whichever one it is. And then so when you restart Studio One, your device should automatically be in the audio box there. It should be there. And you should just then be able to configure the inputs and outputs and all of your device block size settings that you want as well. You can do all of that there, because on the start page, pretty much right below where you see, if it's a PreSonus interface, you will see an image of the interface. If it's a third-party interface, you won't. But right below that, there's a little link that says configure audio device, and you just hit that, and then that takes you to all the configuration page there. And then when you create a song, you can hit the you can go Studio One from the menu bar, options, and open up the audio setup thing, and then there's a button there that says song setup. You hit that button, and then you can go configure all of your ins and outs. If you're starting the song using one of the templates for that interface, and there are
Many of them.
So you'll be able to find one. You'll be able to find the one that matches your interface if you're kind of wanting to just have it all pre-configured. There's a template that opens up with that when you start a new song. You start it with that template, and what it does is it pre-configures all the ins and outs for the interface, and it populates a whole bunch of tracks and obviously channels in the mixer as well, all set ready to go.
Right. Okay. So in summary, so when you install Studio One, first thing you want to do is you want to make sure that within you plug in your audio interface, you go out to your PreSonus account, find the hardware that you have. Let's say it's an audio box USB 96, and inside of that hardware in your account, when you register it, you'll see a downloader for Universal Control. You have to download Universal Control, and then you have to restart your computer, whether the computer prompts you to do so or not. And then what you're saying is when you restart the computer and open up Studio One, Universal Control, is that running in the background, or do you need to launch Universal Control on the restart, or does it really matter?
It should automatically start.
Okay. If it doesn't, does it need to be started, Universal Control?
Yeah, but that should never happen. If something like that happens, it's because Universal Control has not been correctly installed and you've installed it to somewhere that it shouldn't be installed. But if you just followed the on-screen instructions for installing it, and don't change any of the default settings, it will install to the correct place, and then it will automatically kick in.
Okay, so once you restart Studio One, after you restarted your computer, Universal Control kind of runs in the background, and therefore then Studio One auto recognize your audio device, whether it's a i2 or an audio box USB, any one of those things. So now if it still doesn't recognize it, I've told people that, next thing you want to check is maybe the USB cable itself. As strange as that sounds, I've had it happen. Make sure you have another USB cable laying around, or a couple of bucks. Try another USB cable. Also make sure that the interface is not plugged into a hub. Make sure it's plugged directly into the computer if at all possible. Although I've had work them through a powered hub in the past, they can intermittently cut in and out depending on your computer and the specs. So make sure it's plugged directly into the computer. Okay, so those are the things you got to try. Now, if all else fails, and if those three things don't happen and you've downloaded Universal Control, it still doesn't see it, you got to plug directly into your computer, you've swapped out the USB cable, it still doesn't recognize it, then I would head on over again. Links will be in the description box. Go out to the PreSonus forum. When you write and post your question, the other thing is in the forum, try to be as detailed as possible.
Yes.
Try to be as detailed with your computer specs as possible, because that's the only way people are going to be able to help you. A lot of times people just write me an email, and it's no fault of their own. They just don't know. They'll just say, I plugged in my audio box and the computer doesn't see it. Any suggestions? And that is like, I don't know anything about your setup. So in the forum, be as detailed as possible. What kind of computer? Are you running Windows 7? Are you running Windows 10? Are you running Windows XP? Are you running, be very specific about what you have, and someone in there will be able to help you or guide you to check things further. But those are the most common fixes for that particular problem. Right, John?
When you're posting anything in the forum, you in your forum account, you can set up something called a signature. Right. And what that means is in the signature, you can put your system specs. You can just type the system specs there. And what that means is that any post you ever post in the forum, it always has your system specs in the signature. So you don't have to keep on typing them out every time. They're always there. And so I'm a forum moderator. In fact, I'm a forum administrator. So I run the whole forum with three other guys who are forum administrators, and then we have a team of moderators who are all fantastic people. And so in our signatures, we've all got something that says, hey, put your specs in the signature. Make sure you do that. And we've got links in our signatures that you can click if you don't know how to do that. So just find one of us and click click the link in our signature boxes and then just kind of follow the instructions there. So make sure that you've got your signature set up so that it's got your system specs. And then when you do post and you're posting that you've got an issue with your interface or any other aspect of running Studio One on a Windows machine, it's really important that you give folks as much detail as you can. Don't just say Studio One doesn't work, or my Studio 26 doesn't work. You know, you don't want to end up getting into table tennis with questions, because otherwise it'll take you a long time to get your problem solved because you'll be waiting on answers a lot. And the other thing that will happen is you'll get frustrated, other users will get frustrated, and then that's not going to give you the best customer experience, you know, because you'll end up with a bad taste in your mouth about the forum and about different people, and maybe even about PreSonus as a whole. So, you know, just make sure you give as much information as possible. The other thing you can do is you can also raise a support ticket, and you can do that from your my.presonus.com account as well.
Right. And I'll also leave a link in the description box that you can get to it from there if you don't want to log in. So all those links will be down below, but you could do it through your PreSonus account as well. Put a support ticket in.
When you do that, when you do it through your My PreSonus account, again, the same kind of thing applies. Give us as much information as you can. And, you know, if it's system related, you're on a Windows PC, you can send us what is called an info file. And we will ask you for that. If we think there's a system problem, we will ask you for that. And then you can just follow our instructions and send that to us. And we can look at that and we can find out what's going on.
Okay, great. So the next question that I get quite a bit is, how do they change their buffer settings inside of Studio One in the Windows version to get rid of any latency cracks and pops? They'll watch my beginner's guide, which is done on a Mac, and it's done a little bit differently. And so they say sometimes that they can't change it. There's nothing there to change. Or they drop down, there's no drop down box. It's like predetermined. Now, I don't know if that has to do with the specific interface, but if they have latency, cracks, pops, audio artifacts in their audio, their interface is working, but it's not working well, what are the things through the Windows system how do they check and change that?
Okay, first things first, if you are using a PreSonus interface, then you do all of those changes inside Universal Control.
Okay, so that is different from the Mac. The Mac, you don't have to do it through Universal Control.
That is correct.
Okay,
that is correct.
There you go. Yep. Okay, so for Windows, all that has to be done in the Universal Control app, not in Studio One itself.
Yeah, and what happens is all of that information gets sent by Universal Control to Studio One, and all of the adjustments get changed there for your device block size. Now, things like the dropout protection, which is the second tab in that dialog box that we're talking about.
Right.
If you want to deal with the specifics of dropouts and crackles and pops and that kind of thing, then you can deal with that there. And you can basically, the way it works is the Studio One audio engine, since version 3.5, was split into two pathways. It's very, very clever how they did it. So there's like a recording and a playback pathway. And what that means is instead of having just one pathway through which all of your traffic is kind of going like this, and it's having to make way for each other, you know, they're having to kind of like cross over each other. Mm-hmm. What they did was they created two separate pathways. So you got a recording pathway and a playback pathway, and now they kind of don't meet, so they can run at kind of optimal levels. So what that means practically within that dialog box is you can set up your dropout protection settings so that you can have low latency for recording and a higher latency for playback, because for playback, latency is not a problem. It doesn't matter. But for recording, it really does.
Right.
Because you want to be able to play in time to the other tracks, right? So you can set by using dropout protection, and if you're using native low latency within Studio One using this pathway, then you set it up so you have a green Z. And when you do that, that can eliminate most of your latency troubles and most of your crackles and pops and that kind of thing. You just got to make sure that you're not overtaxing your computer. You know, if you've got a slow computer, give it some breathing space. don't set that device block size quite so low.
Right.
And the trade-off will be that you'll have latency, and you can fix that with the dropout protection. So kind of there is a little bit of a trade-off, and you just need to find the sweet spot between the device block size and the dropout protection that is going to work for your system. Every Windows computer is going to be different because, everyone's going to have different processors, different RAM, all that stuff.
Different versions of Windows, whether you're 7, 10, what updates do you have, all that stuff. Okay,
just bear in mind if you're running Windows 7, Windows 7 is no longer supported by Microsoft,
right. That's right.
And 4.6 is the last version of Studio One that will support Windows 7 and Windows 8.
Right. Okay. So all the stuff, all the device block size, the buffer settings, all of that stuff on a PC is done in the Universal Control app, not in Studio One. So when you're watching my beginner's guide video, which is what a lot of people purchase, they see me do it inside of Studio One because that's the way it's done on a Mac. It's not done that way in a PC. So it gets a little confusing. So make sure that what you see me doing in the Studio One preferences window, when I talk about block size and latency, you're going to do that same kind of thing, but you're going to do it inside the Universal Control app that we just talked about downloading a few minutes ago. And that will hopefully resolve that issue. The other thing you want to make sure you do is you want to make sure you have the latest version.
Sugar bumps. I've lost audio.
Oh, you have? I can still hear you. That you can that you have the latest firmware updates for your audio interface. And again, you can check that in the Universal Control app. It'll tell you whether your audio interface has a firmware update. Make sure that that's updated to the latest firmware update. Make sure your Universal Control app is updated to the latest version. And again, it'll give you a notification within the app. Okay, so that's how you want to check those things as well. Let's see. I hear you still, John. I don't think we lost your audio. At least I don't know if the stream can let us know.
Yeah, I lost you.
You lost me completely?
Yeah, you're back now though, but I lost like a good 10 seconds there.
I was just telling them to update the firmware. Make sure in the Universal Control app, they have the latest version of it. Make sure your audio interface has the latest firmware update. The Universal Control app will give you a little notification that your interface has an update. If there's an update, go ahead and update it. Do all of those things before you before you proceed, and that will also help resolve some of those issues. And the third question that I get a lot, and again, I know this is very specific to Windows, is that they have their Studio One on their system and it's working, and at the same time they're trying to watch one of my, and I'm sure the same of yours, one of your training videos on the same computer so they can work alongside. And what they're finding is that on certain systems, Studio One can't play back the audio, and then you could play back the audio on your video at the same time. There's some conflict there, and so is there a workaround to fix that so they can play the video on the same computer as Studio One so they can work along with the tutorial? And if so, what do they have to do to make that happen? Or can that not happen? And if it can't, what do you do?
Okay, first thing, it's not a bug in either Studio One or in Windows. It's actually by design for both. And the reason being is that Studio One runs on a protocol called ASIO, and Windows Audio, which is your system audio, your browser audio, does not. That uses something called WDM. Okay, so there are two different audio pathways, audio systems, effectively. So there's a couple of things you can do. First things first, if you have your interface set as your default audio device for recording and playback for your whole computer, which is how I have it. I have my Studio 1824. That is my main interface. It's my main sound card for my whole computer. All my audio goes through it. So my Windows audio, my browser audio, system audio, YouTube, the works. This broadcast is going through my Studio 1824. So what you want to do is make sure that that is the case. And you can do that by going into your audio device settings and set your interface there as the default playback device. and default recording device.
Is that within Windows in the control panel
Yeah,
of the Windows
you do that.
Okay.
Yeah, you do that in Windows in the control panel.
So when you go to the control panel, you go to your audio settings for Windows, the operating system, you want to choose your audio interface that you got plugged into your computer as your sound card.
Yep. So you set it as your default recording device and default playback device.
Okay.
Okay. Now, whilst you're in those two little boxes, the one for recording and the one for playback, there's a little box there that says give exclusive mode. You can try checking that for both. All right. And then try opening up your browser with YouTube, and then open Studio One with a song, and then play the song and play the YouTube video at the same time. And you should have both playing at the same time. That's how I have my setup working on Windows 10. And that's how I used to have it on Windows 7. So I know that does work for both. Another thing you can do is, as an alternative, just a second methodology, is you can go into your settings, in your audio settings in Studio One, and there's a little box there that says release device when in background, release audio device when in background. If you check that and then hit apply and OK, when you minimize Studio One, it will release your sound card so that other applications can make use of it. Because what happens is when ASIO is controlling the audio device, nothing else can use it.
Okay, so where do you find that? Where do you find that box, release the audio device? Where is that located?
So you go to Studio One, and you go to
options.
Options, yeah.
Okay.
I've been working on Mac all day today, so I was about to say preferences, but it's options on Windows, and then you go to audio settings there, and then, as I say, that little box is there, and you can just give that a check, hit apply, hit OK. Download box goes away, and then when you minimize Studio One, you should be able to hear any other audio.
So you have to minimize Studio One because you have to get it out of focus. So the audio driver will play, let's say, one of my training courses on the screen. It'll play. You'll hear the video. You'll hear the audio. You'll see the video. And then if you want to pause it and then bring Studio One out of your dock, or unminimize it, then you can play back your audio in Studio One. So you got to do a little flippity flop back and forth between minimizing and unminimizing, but it does work. Which is why doing it via the exclusive method works better, because with the exclusive mode better, using that basically means you don't have to keep doing that flip-flopping. So right now I have YouTube open, and I also have Studio One open as well at the same time, and I know that I can play audio from both. Okay, so when you're in the audio control panel settings within Windows, if you check the playback and the recording and you check the exclusive box, that should alleviate you from having to minimize Studio One to play the video and then bring Studio One back up. But if for some reason that doesn't work for you, for whatever reason, although you said it does work on Windows 7, Windows 10, the other option is to release the audio device in the Studio One settings, as we said, and then you can just minimize and unminimize Studio One. But you don't need to do both, right? You should try the thing within the Windows control panel first, the exclusive audio. If that doesn't work, then go to the second method.
Yep.
Right? Is that right? Okay.
Yep.
So those are the three main questions that I get all the time. Those three right there. So what I want to do now is we'll stop this video. I'm going to let people know now, if you watch this and you've tried these things, again, if they didn't work for you for whatever reason, in the description box below, there'll be two links. There'll be a link to the PreSonus forum. There'll be a link to be able to put in a PreSonus support ticket. I would suggest that you go to the forum first, and if you register for a free account, and if you give the detailed information and try to be as lengthy and as detailed as you can with your problem in your post, someone will get back to you and be able to help you. And if that doesn't work for whatever reason, or if you've done that and they still can't help you, you can always put in a ticket with the PreSonus support team. And again, that link will be in the description box below. So hopefully this video has helped you. Again, if you're still having trouble and you can't, go follow those links. Someone will be able to help you. And I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you, Johnny, for helping us with that video, and for all our PC users. And we will see you guys really soon.
You're welcome.
Okay, cool. So I'll cut that out. I'll put that